Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new revenge stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first one is titled, "What are we gonna do about it, you ask?" We'll show you. I work as a train driver. I drive smaller trains mostly out in the countryside, and people are generally nice and well behaved. But of course, there are also the alcoholics, drug addicts and general weirdos that uses public transport, and some people that just live to be a pain in the butt. This was a few years ago. We were traveling in the late afternoon and my conductor, let's say C, storms into the driver's cabin, angry and annoyed, and tells me, "C, we have two rude good-for-nothing guys on board and they're such a holes." Me, what did they do? C, they have no tickets, refuse to pay, just laughs up in my face and are saying, "What are you gonna do about it?" Me, what the heck? Should I help you throw them off at the next stop? C, we can't because they're just traveling one station, so they're getting off at the next stop. Goddamn smug guys with their, "What are you gonna do about it?" So we're both angry. I let the conductor rant and let off some steam. The next stop comes and the guys get off. The conductor angrily gestures at them, "That's them, duckers." We continue the short remaining journey and have a break at the end station. Some hours later the train then goes back. Since it's on the countryside and it's a late weekend evening, the train is almost empty on the way back. The conductor knows where every passenger on board is getting off and she's up at front with me, chatting, and all is fine again. Until we approach the station where we let those guys off. We see two people standing there. It is them. My conductor beside me shines up like a goddamn sun. She says, with the biggest smile on her face, "Do not stop." And I'm just laughing, slowing down the train, not stopping though. When we pass them, my conductor opens the window, waves and says loud and happily, "This is what I'm gonna do about it." The guys are just staring at her with their jaws on the ground when we drive past them. We laugh all the way to our home station. We were the last train for the day. The next one is titled, "Got Cold Feet?" Here's a burn to warm them up. I've been reading up on all your stories of revenge served, but what about being on the receiving end? So I thought I'd post one of a friend of mine, let's call him Alex, that took place almost 10 years ago. Alex was out of his hometown for business in the city and staying at a small apartment his parents-in-law owned that was normally vacant and only ever used if they also had to come to the city for doctor visits, business, etc. Alex's stay would only be for a couple of weeks or so, and one fateful day he had the idea to arrange an escort to come by. He visited a website and scrolled through the available options until he found the right lady and booked her for that night, giving address and contact info without second thought. Now you may wonder, as I did, "Dude, at your parents-in-law place? What were you thinking?" His answer was that fact dawned on him a couple hours later just as he saw a nice sports car park across his street, a big guy getting out and lighting a cigarette, and a beautiful woman all dressed up coming towards his apartment. At that point he got cold feet and panicked, thinking that someone who knew his parents-in-law would see and tell them, and add also the fact that he's married and shouldn't be doing this in the first place. So he did the next best thing and never answered the ring to open the building entrance, his mobile, as she called a couple times, or her and the guys angry yelling on the street for wasting their time. After what seemed like an eternity they had their fill and sped off, and he thought that he dodged the bullet. A couple of days pass and Alex starts receiving calls by unknown numbers on his mobile at random hours, on all 24 hours, early morning, noon, night, no time was safe, by random guys that hung up the moment they heard Alex's voice. This went on for several days with average 15 calls per day, until finally he managed to keep one guy on the line to have the following discussion: "Alex, please don't hang up." Guy, "What the hell? Who are you?" Alex, "How did you get this number? I've been getting called like crazy for days." Guy, "Dude, you don't know. Go to some random pervy site and check out Hottie 6969. Alex, thanks." So Alex enters the website and sees a profile for an escort, and it wasn't even an attractive one, overweight and wearing 2 sizes smaller clothes, kind of unattractive, a bargain at half the normal rate, and saying anything goes 24/7, call me for a good time at Alex's number. He did manage to take down the ad with the help of an IT friend that contacted the site admin just in time for his return to his hometown and wife, and the random calls started to die down soon after, so I guess lesson learned. The next one is titled, Ride My Tail Speeding. Guess you were going too fast to notice the cop car. I was driving home from a get-together, and was going 41 miles per hour in a 37 miles per hour zone. Where I'm from, the police almost never pull you over if you're going 10 or less over, but will definitely pull you over for anything over that. All was well until I got closer to my area. It's less city-like and more rural, with the roads alternating between single and double lanes. I'm on a single lane speeding 6 miles per hour over when a pickup truck in my rearview caught my attention. They were going a tad bit faster when they caught up to me and promptly braked a meter behind me. I was like, okay, I'll speed up to 43 miles per hour, no big deal, but they continued to tailgate me. Upon closer inspection, I could see the mug of a very angry woman who had no understanding of personal space. What ensued was a full 5 minutes of them completely obscuring my rearview mirror with how close they were. I was tired and kind of hungover, so I really was not in the mood to be worrying about a potential car accident thanks to her driving. I was going to pull over to let her go around when Waze gave me a heads up that a police officer was reported up ahead. This was when I decided I'm gonna dole out some karma. I slowly dropped my speed from 43 miles per hour to 37 miles per hour, now at the speed limit. This woman was furious. Why she just didn't pass me, I'll never know, but she was literally going slightly over the mid-line, yelling to herself in my rearview, flashing her full brights in a weird show-offish way to get me to go faster. I did this for another minute before Waze showed the cop was less than a 0.6 miles away. I put on my turn signal, very slowly pulled over, and watched this woman flip me the bird as she whipped past me, disappearing over the hill, now going way faster than 10 miles per hour over. I continued on my way, getting up to 43 miles per hour when I cleared the hill to see flashing lights ahead. Jackpot. I drove with anticipation until I got close enough to confirm it was my friend from earlier. Not wanting to miss out on hitting her with our new secret greeting, I dropped down to 37 miles per hour, peered over and flashed the bird back at her. I hope you enjoy the ticket, Karen. The next one is titled, You Call Yourself My Bestie, then have the nerve to tell me to get over it when you attempt to date my ex? Sure, I'll get over it. But first, background info. When I was in high school, I had two best friends of several years who I allowed to treat me like a scourge to society. If I'm being honest, I was their duff, the designated ugly fat friend. They'd flirt with guys they knew I liked, leave me out, use me for emotional support and rides to places, and they were never there for me when I needed them. If I dared to bring up any of the mistreatment, I got gaslit. Sexual assault. I'll never forget when I got assaulted by a guy one of them liked, and she victim blamed me, telling me I should have just walked away. I can hardly detail all the crap I was put through without rambling for hours, so essentially, these witches sucked. This story concerns only one of them, we'll call her Nina. Nina loved getting involved with guys I liked. If I started talking to a guy, told her I had a crush on him, or otherwise expressed interest, she'd be in his face within days. Call me old-fashioned, but I believe in loyalty and girl code. I didn't do these things to her, in fact she'd be very angry if I did, so why do them to me? But, still, I allowed her to get away with it and trudged on through the friendship. One night, in the middle of a casual group chat conversation, Nina sends a text saying she needed to tell me something. I already knew what the hell was coming. I mean, even Stevie Wonder could see this level of disrespect. You see, for months prior, I'd caught glimpses of Nina getting quite cozy with my ex, we'll call him Billy. I'd been gaslit so much that at the time I thought I was just overthinking, but there were hard eyes being exchanged in text messages, photos being posted of the two hugging and kissing, he even had her social media passwords. All kinds of crazy crap going on, they were blatantly playing in my face. This Billy guy wasn't crap either, he cheated on me countless times, embarrassed me publicly, spread rumors about me that followed me for years, tried to get me jumped, and loads more traumatizing crap I've just barely recovered from. But, lo and behold, Nina tells me that she likes Billy, and that the two are getting ready to date. She then has the audacity to tell me that I need to get over it before my sad butt could even muster up a response. And you know what? In true dumb butt fashion, I genuinely was going to push my feelings aside for the umpteenth time and get over it. If I haven't already made this painfully obvious, I struggled with low self-esteem. I didn't think I could find better friends, or that I was worthy of anything better. I was heartbroken. Suddenly, it hit me like a truck. The years of being disregarded, of being treated like an afterthought, of being disrespected. I don't know what happened, possibly someone had snuck a can of spinach in my mouth while I wasn't paying attention or some crap. All I know is, you could have called me Popeye the Sailor Man the way I experienced that sudden burst of strength. I began maniacally typing up the most disrespectful, hate-fueled, self-esteem crushing paragraph I'd ever had the pleasure of writing. To say I ripped Nina a new one would be an understatement. Venom flowed from my fingertips. I mean, it was so bad I made the girl cry, something I never knew I was capable of. I remember telling her that she was so insecure that she limited herself to guys I'd already tried, but she could never keep them around because she lacked personality and was boring. Can't say I'm proud, but hey. Typically, I'd be the one crying in situations like these, and now I wasn't. Witnesses say the tables turned so hard that every piece of silverware nearly went flying into her neck. Still, I was enraged. The tears Nina shed weren't enough, I wanted blood. I immediately began conjuring up a paragraph of vicious lies that I would then send to the ex in question, Billy. I told him how much I loved and missed him, how I wanted to try again and make things work. To my surprise, he was ducking thrilled. We immediately got back together. Nina was a wreck, she'd just lost the best friend she'd ever have, and her potential boyfriend all in one night. Mutual friends of ours were texting me for days to let me know how upset she was. All I could see were the two big butt pigeons I'd hit with one stone. I took Billy on a wild goose chase for a month. Admittedly, I cheated on him and played with his emotions just because I knew I could. He was in shambles over me, the same way I had been over him in the past. Not condoning this behavior, but I was an angry high schooler and he honestly had done far worse. I considered this payback for all the cheating, lies, and embarrassment I endured while with him. Just when I thought my circumstances couldn't get any better, a very cute and popular guy who I never thought would look my way began showing interest in me. Coincidentally, he had rejected Nina a couple months prior. I eventually left Billy high and dry for him, and never spoke to either of my toxic butt friends again. For years I thought I couldn't live without them, just for me to end up thriving on my own and in a relationship with one of the cutest guys in the school. Moral of the story? I'm not sure. Never let people mistreat you. Curse your shitty friends out. The last one is titled, Prove I'm Going to a Funeral? Okay there. I'll start off by saying, I'm not really one for starting a conflict, but I had one teacher in college who really liked to push my buttons. Her class was specific for my major, but she was not one of my regular professors. So pretty much I would only have this one class with her, which I needed in order to continue on with what I was studying. In saying that, I was one of the few that took the class, not in her major. So she sat us in the back, and ultimately treated us like we weren't going to take the class seriously, so she gave more attention to her students that sat up front. And I get it, the professors that I had for my major were very friendly with us and would joke around and whatnot. But never had I had a teacher that would blatantly single out students the way she did to us in the back. I won't go into all the details in this story, but a lot had to do with us getting bad grades, or she forgot to email us assignments, to which point she would laugh and just say oops or refuse to help us. It was very frustrating. So, what started her big issue with me is one of my examples above. She emailed her students after class one day that there was going to be a chance for extra credit that night if we went to a specific seminar on campus. I never received this email. I found out about it through another student in the class asking me if I was going to go. Clearly confused, they forwarded me the email, and after making sure I did not receive it, I checked with the other people in the back, none of which received it either. Thinking it was a mistake, we all ended up going because who couldn't use some extra credit? After the seminar, which didn't have much to do with the class at all, our professor saw us and approached us to ask why we were here. I told her about the email, and even though we didn't get it, we still wanted to come for the extra credit. She laughed it off and said she must have forgotten us but could not give us the extra credit because we needed to reply back to the email to let her know we were going beforehand, for reasons. So simple to say, that wasn't fair, and despite our protests, she just said sorry and walked away. Well, the next day I marched my ass up to the dean of our major's office and explained the situation. We got the extra credit. So that was the whole issue that started a lot of issues, and it got much worse. Probably a few weeks after this event she came into class, in tears, and promptly just told us to read from the textbook while she sobbed at her desk. I'm human, I was concerned, but she had several students around her desk trying to console her. After a bit, she pulled it together and she sat at the edge of her desk and started to honestly vent about what was happening in her personal life at that moment. Fine, I get it, life is hard, but after an hour of this with honestly nobody really responding to what she was saying, it was a little ridiculous. Cancel class and go home if you have to. But this was soon not limited to just that class. From then forward, the first half of almost every class was just her talking with us about anything from her divorce, her new marriage, her children's issues, up to and including her sex life. That was where I drew the line one day. She came in and in exclusive detail told us the promiscuous night she had before. No, I'm not paying as much money as I am for college to hear this. So that day again, I went up to the dean's office along with several other students, including some of her own. Well, this situation was a little more serious, and we were asked to speak in front of a few more faculty, including the president of the school. And honestly, I was proud of myself for standing up for the class. We had spoken to a lot of our classmates and they too were confused by not only why we were no longer actually being taught, but she did draw a line with that story and made them uncomfortable. Our teacher after that had missed a few days, only sending us a few emails about required reading. When she returned, she sat on the edge of the desk again, facing us, and wanted to address what had happened. She was told by the school that she stepped out of line and that she would no longer be able to dive into her personal life the way that she had. She then asked the people that felt uncomfortable to raise their hands so that she could address them. No one raised their hands, it was none of her business, and at this point we had wasted half the class again because she went into more details about other stuff. It was later that day that a few of us, who did go to the dean, was at the cafeteria for lunch when she marched over and began, and this is no exaggeration, yell at us because of what we did. Tears were streaming down her face as she pointed at me. She said she couldn't get out of bed for days and then called me a homophobe. The sex story had been about her and her wife's night. A major side note, I couldn't have cared less about that detail. It could have been about her and a guy. Hell, 2, 3, 4 people and I still would have gone to the dean. It was unprofessional and gross. Again, she was out of line, but it wasn't I who went to the dean, it was another teacher that saw this. This went full circle a few times. But honestly, it was revealed that they weren't going to fire her and I had a few weeks left and then I wouldn't have to sit in her class again. I was over it, I was passing her class, and I was ready to move on. Unfortunately, a week or so later, my aunt passed away unexpectedly. My mum called me that morning and told me. To put this in perspective, it hadn't been a good year on my mum's side for things of this nature. This was the third big thing to happen, and this particular time was while my grandmother was in the hospital recovering from a heart attack. It was all very scary and sudden and I needed to get home. My college was in state, but I was about a 6-hour drive, so I wanted to take a few days to be with my family. I had asked a few of my professors and they all were very accommodating, except I can let you guess which one. When it came time to ask this particular professor, she played this fake sympathy card and put a hand on my shoulder. At this point, we had a date of the funeral and I would only miss one of her classes. She gave me some assigned reading to do and my homework she told me to turn in the next day, which was like 4 days earlier than if I had been to class, but whatever. I thanked her, but as I left and was walking down the hallway, she caught up to me and told me she forgot to mention that she needed some proof that I was going to a funeral. And the example she gave me? The death certificate of my aunt. So here is where the fun begins. I drove home that night, emailed her my homework and honestly wanted to email her the proof so I didn't have to worry about her when I was home. Come to find out, sometimes death certificates aren't readily available, nor should anyone have to ask their grieving grandmother for one. I told my mum about it and she was shocked, but she didn't have any information about it. So I emailed my professor, told her the situation, and she replied back that since it had been several days, the law requires one to be sent out within like 72 hours or something. To which I replied that even if that was true, it still meant that I had to ask my grandmum for it, and I did not want to do that. Her reply, and this is the word for word because I remember it: "I need proof, so you'll need to ask someone to see it. Your aunt would think that was appropriate, I'm sure." She then gave me her cell number and said I could text it to her instead of scanning because she would make that accommodation for me. Well, turns out, I did ask my grandmum, and it sucked. But she didn't have it, or she didn't see it. And I was not going to snoop or have her go through the piles of papers to find it. So I didn't care. Duck this teacher. Would she really fail me for missing one class? So the day of the funeral came and I got a text from her. She said she hadn't received anything from me, including my homework, which in the original email she acknowledged she had gotten. And that if I did not send it, she would fail me in the super secret assignment that we were going to have that day, and it was worth like 25% of my grade. I was in no mood to argue. I was surrounded by my huge family, many of whom I rarely see, and it sucked that it was for a funeral. But in a last-ditch effort, I took a picture of the program I was holding, which had my aunt's name on the front, with her death date, and today's date of the service. It took several minutes for her to respond, to which she then accused me of making a fake program to send her, since it was only one page folded in half. For duck's sake, I then did something that to this day I do not regret. I turned around and took a picture of my aunt, lying in her casket. Now, I wasn't super close, it wasn't zoomed in or anything. But it was a clear picture of a dead person. And had my aunt been alive, she would have laughed and flipped her off in the picture. I sent that picture with a simple text saying that if that wasn't proof enough, I could get a closer shot. Never did hear anything back from her that day, but the fun did not stop there. I have a big family, a very close big family. And word kinda traveled about my situation. I think by the end of the day there was a total of 37 of them that called both this professor, dean, and president to inform them what they thought of the situation. One of which was from my grandmother, that was as close to a saint as you could get, calling my teacher a witch on her voicemail. I returned to school and almost immediately was asked to have a meeting with this teacher, my other teachers, and the dean. I explained the situation from the beginning, not just the funeral, but the issues after the seminar, the story, the cafeteria encounter, another fun one where this teacher intentionally got me a parking ticket on campus and then laughed about it. The funeral story was a hit because the president arrived for that one, and I had all the emails, texts, and phone logs to prove it. The teacher denied a lot of it, saying she does this to all of the students because a lot like to inflict bad karma onto themselves by lying about going to a funeral. Needless to say, she was made to take a leave of absence, but ultimately not fired for some reason. It didn't matter at that point. I passed the class and got the satisfaction of the remaining years at school. She would make an abrupt turn in the hallway if she ever saw me walking down it. Had another fun encounter too when she was put on an event I was helping to run, and she visibly was shaking when she had to stand next to me and speak. Thanks for listening.